we have a podcast.
Diving deep into all things Texans, both on and off the field. Here's Sean Pendergast and Pro Football Hall of Famer, the General, John McClain. Welcome to Utopia.
Hey everybody, welcome in. It is the Utopia Football Podcast. It is the Thursday, Week 11 edition of the podcast. That means a pregame six-pack for the Cardinals coming to town on Sunday. That means a little for real or fugazis that we'll do to take a look at some of the other topics going on around the world of sports. And the big news yesterday was Deshaun Watson out for the season for the Cleveland Browns. That affects the Texans in multiple ways that we're going to dig into in just a moment here. I'm Sean Pendergast, one half of Payne and Pendergast, Sports Radio 610, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., Monday through Friday. Joined as always by my good friend, the Hall of Famer, our senior columnist at sportsradio610.com, John McClain. John, how we doing?
Doing great today, thank you.
Better than Deshaun Watson, I would assume. Deshaun Watson yesterday about 8 o'clock, right before you joined Seth Payne and myself on Payne and Pendergast. News coming down from the Browns that Deshaun Watson is out for the season with shoulder surgery. Broke a bone in his shoulder in the Ravens game on Sunday, in addition to a high ankle sprain. So the Ravens left him beaten up and battered and done for the season. John, when you got that news, when you saw that news, there's multiple ways this affects the Texans. What was the first one that popped into your head?
The draft picks, they have the first and fourth round picks from the Browns left from the trade, primarily for 3-1s. And I thought about that and how it should be a better pick than if Deshaun had stayed healthy. But Watson's been hurt most of this season. And the best he'd played was in the second half Sunday in the comeback victory over Baltimore. But he'd been up and down anyway. They've won, not because of him, because of great defense and a running game in which they've done a tremendous job without Nick Chubb.
Yeah, John, my feeling on this I'm with you. The same very first thing I thought of was the draft pick, just because that's kind of what we've been conditioned to do over the last couple of years is with the Browns is, root against them so the draft pick is higher. So part of that is just a Pavlovian thing where I feel like anything Browns related, my brain immediately goes there. There's obvious impact on the playoff race. The Browns are ahead of the Texans right now at 6-3 and the 6th seed. The Texans are 5-4 and the 7th seed. They play each other on Christmas Eve. There's obviously an impact there as well. John, am I crazy? I think the Browns still have a decent chance of making the postseason. As you pointed out, they're 6-3, and none of it's because of Deshaun Watson. Now, obviously his bad football is probably still about the same or better than what you're going to get out of either Dorian Thompson-Robinson or P.J. Walker, but they've got 8 games left. I looked at the schedule. They don't have a ton of hard games left. They played Baltimore both times already. Only 2 games in the division remaining out of the 6. I think they can win 9 games, John, Cleveland.
I think they can win 9 or 10 because they're built like they always are to win in bad weather, defense and running game. Their offensive line is really good. And they're going to have a lot of bad weather when they play at home, when they play division. And I think that this will kind of galvanize the team and they'll be in the playoff race. Don't think they're going to win the division, but they can definitely be a wild card. And I think right now, Sean, that the Texans are going to win the AFC South, and they won't have to worry about the Browns trying to compete for a wild card.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're kind of showing your cards there a little bit, John, as far as this Arizona game goes. So you think the Texans are going to win you got the Texans winning the AFC South as of right now?
I do. They got 3 in a row at home. Of course, they played Jacksonville and what would be the biggest game of the season, biggest game since the playoffs in 2020. January 2020. And so I think for sure they're going to beat, not for sure. I think they're going to beat the Jaguars. I think they're going to win these 3, have a 5-game winning streak. They've got the tiebreaker, and I think it'll be close, but I think they're going to win the division right now. They got something special going on.
Yeah, dude, if they win 3 in a row, CJ's going to be, he's already in the top 5 on the odds board for the MVP. If they win 3 games, including taking control of the division heading into December, look the hell out. Then you're going on the road to New York after that. That game now is being rumored to possibly be shifted to Monday Night Football. We'll get into that in For Real or Fugazi a little bit later. But yeah, John, it's all the things that we talked about leading up to that Cincinnati game was about opportunity. And if they win that Cincinnati game, the opportunity that presents itself now for them to do something that really galvanizes the city and gets back behind the Texans again. We're here. That's where we are right now. This Arizona game, very winnable game for the Texans that you and I are going to preview here in just a second. I guess just to put a bow on Deshaun, if you were a Browns fan, would you be more distraught about what this means to this season or concerned about Deshaun in future seasons, given the nature of the injury?
I think it'd be more distraught about this season because they thought they had a chance to win the AFC North. Maybe they will anyway. But shoulder operations, if you handle them right and you rehab them right, there's no reason to think he won't. You're a fan. You're going to worry about it next year, but I think you're more worried about the immediate.
Yeah. Boy, they were, John, I was listening in on Cleveland radio, and it was like death in the family kind of stuff on Wednesday when that news came down. So Dorian Thompson-Robinson, that's going to be the starter this weekend against the Pittsburgh Steelers. DTR, I'd imagine the Steelers are licking their chops at the thought of DTR under center instead of Deshaun coming off a half where he was 14 for 14. That's pretty impressive, John. He went 14 for 14, and he had a broken bone in his shoulder in the second half of that football game.
And he had a bad ankle.
Yeah. It looked like he was finally turning the corner. So we'll talk more about Deshaun and for real or Fugazi as well. The financial ramifications are jarring if you're a Browns fan on how much they still have left to pay, or how many millions of dollars they have paid to Deshaun already in cash, but have not recognized yet on the salary cap, shoved into future years. It's credit card stuff that would have you chasing a bankruptcy lawyer right now if it was actual real money. John, we'll get into that.
They deserve everything they can get for that preposterous contract.
I agree. I'm with you on it. I'm 100%. I take great joy in the Browns kind of suffering through the effects of this contract. No question about it. It was a bad trade. We'll talk more about that in just a minute here. As far as the Texans go, John, a couple things before we get into the pregame six-pack. Denzel Perryman's suspension reduced from 3 games down to 2. What are your thoughts on that?
I wasn't surprised that he was suspended when it was his 7th violation of a neck or helmet hit. And once he appealed it, they're going to reduce it. They've done that for Kareem Jackson. If you do it for one, you're going to do it for the other. I still find it so interesting that John Runyon, who was one of the dirtiest players in the NFL, began his career with the Oilers before they moved to the Titans, and then he went to Philadelphia, that he is the one that hands out the punishment. And he's tough on these guys like he's supposed to be, but they've got a lot of linebackers, and Christian Harris in particular is playing really well. Blake Cashman's been playing well all season, but I think they can withstand the loss of Perryman. He missed a couple other games because of injuries.
Yeah. Seth said the same thing about Runyon. That was the first thing he said when that news broke about Perryman. He's like, I can't believe John Runyon is the one that hands down these punishments. He was one of the dirtiest players he ever played against. And then Devin Singletary, second straight week, Texans get the AFC Offensive Player of the Week. How about that, John? That was a nice little surprise yesterday.
Career high in carries, career high in rushes. He did a great job. Offensive line did a great job. And if Dameon Pierce is healthy, I'm still starting Singletary.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, Pierce missed practice yesterday. I've not seen any reports on if he was out there today. Have you?
No.
Yeah, I have not either. So this ankle injury is pretty serious with Dameon Pierce for something that everybody said, he's just going to rest and then come back, after the bye week or whatever. He's been out for a while now with this ankle injury, much the same way he was last year at the end of the year with an ankle injury.
That's got to be troublesome if you have the same injury 2 years in a row, like Derek Stingley Jr., hamstring this year, hamstring last year. Don't know if he had to have surgery on the hamstring, if it was detached from the bone because they're so quiet about what they do. But that's got to be worrisome for the coaches about Pierce having the ankle injury.
Absolutely. All right, John, you ready to do a little pregame six-pack for this bad boy?
I am.
All right, let's do it. Pregame six-pack for the Arizona Cardinals. We'll give our prediction at the end of the six-pack as well. 6 people, position groups, or storylines that impact this game tremendously. We should know here that the spread has been hovering on this game. The lowest I've seen it is Texans -4. That's where I got it earlier this week. This morning, it was Texans -4.5. It got up to 5. So that's where we are right now. The Texans are hovering as about a 4 or 5 point favorite. I would imagine Kyler Murray's presence in this game has a lot to do with that. If this was a Clayton Tune situation, I'm guessing the Texans are over a touchdown favorite at home against the Cardinals, but they've got their franchise quarterback back for this game. So, John, with that laid out, You are up first, my friend.
I'm not going to break it down by position. I'm going to do the whole defense because they've got to keep him bottled up and not let Murray break long runs when his protection breaks down. And Jonathan Grenard and Will Anderson Jr. statistically are the best set of ends at setting the edge. And I can't remember if that's Next Gen Stats or Pro Football Focus. And they're going to have to be really disciplined about Murray. And I would guess they might have somebody spying on him.
Yeah.
Maybe Jalen Petrie. I don't know. Petrie's coming off a bad game in which he missed too many tackles, but they're going to have a special plan for Kyler Murray, as they should. And they run the ball pretty well even before he was back. That's what they did best. So their offense is going to be good. It's going to be a good test for the overall defense that gave up some big pass plays. But that's what happens when you're missing 3 of your top 4 safeties, and they could be missing them again. Obviously, MJ Stewart, Derek Murray on IR, and Jimmy Ward may miss a second game in a row. And that's why DeAndre Houston Carson stepping up with an interception and 7 unassisted tackles was such a big deal for the defense. But they can't let Murray find receivers down the field, and they got to keep him contained.
John, did you just take the whole defense as an item on the six-pack? You took one whole side of the football.
I did. Well, you can still break it down individually.
All right, I'm going to. I'm gonna play off
because mine was all about containing Kyler Murray.
Yeah. I'm gonna dovetail off of what you just said. I want to hone in on that spy part of the whole thing, putting a spy on him. He is the type of quarterback you need to put a spy on him. When they won the game last week against Atlanta, it wasn't because Drew Petzig, their offensive coordinator, was scheming up a bunch of plays to go have them drive down and get a field goal. Unlike the Texans, they got down there because Kyler Murray had a big scramble on a 3rd and 10. That was vintage Kyler Murray, where he runs backwards for about 15 yards so that he can run forward for 25 and get a first down. And then the play that put them in field goal position was Kyler just throwing a ball up to Trey McBride, the tight end, who may find his way into this six-pack at some point as well. So I think the spy on Kyler, especially obviously for the scrambling part of it more than anything else, and that's why I will get specific, and I would say Blake Cashman would be my guy. That would be the guy that I would have as the spy on Kyler Murray. I think he's got the athleticism to do it. I think he's got the discipline to do it. And I think he's been one of their best tacklers this year, which is a big key. That's why Petrie would scare me as a spy for Kyler Murray. Petrie's tackling, John, he's been in position to do things. He was in position to do things last week. His tackling is still suspect this year, and that's disappointing to me.
Absolutely. I talked to Blake Cashman in the locker room on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And I asked him because I pointed out you were hurt your entire career with the Jets. You were on IR, and then you got here. I said, has something changed? And he said, as soon as he came to Houston, they started telling him about things that he should do about all the soft tissue injuries that he had. And he says he's put a lot of time into it. And it takes a lot of time to constantly be working on your body, but it's worked. He's been able to stay healthy. Didn't he get an extension?
Well, for this year, yeah.
And so he's very, very happy, very fit, and I think that's just so interesting that one team would have him do something that another team did not.
Yeah, well, hopefully he can pass some of those tricks of the trade for soft tissue injuries on to Derek Stingley Jr. That would be sweet if he could do that. What's your next one, John?
It's got to be C.J. Stroud. I don't think he can continue to be Superman every game. Now, he had 3 turnovers, 2 of which were legitimate. That fumble was just preposterous and should have been an incompletion. But I think that as long as he doesn't turn the ball over like he did, and I think the odds are against him doing it two games in a row, and him just continue to make the plays down the field, I'm blown away at how well they throw the ball down the field. I was listening to NFL radio this week, and a guy I know who's been on there a lot was talking about they don't ask Stroud to do too much in that offense. And I'm saying, obviously, you're not paying any attention.
No.
Because they ask him to do so much in that offense. He's not going to keep averaging 400 yards a game. I think they take 260 or 270 with no turnovers, a couple touchdown passes. So I'm going to say Stroud's going to have to make sure he outplays Kyler Murray.
John, I'll give you some numbers that will back up that'll make you feel good if that's one of your keys. The Arizona Cardinals pass defense they give up 101 passer rating to opposing quarterbacks. That is 31st in the NFL. They allow over 26 points per game. That is 28th in the NFL. They are 29th in the NFL on allowing third down conversions, which CJ Stroud is one of the best third down converters in the NFL and maybe the best rookie third down converter that I have ever seen in my life. So it lines up nicely for your six-pack pick to do good things there.
That bodes very well for the offense in general and, of course, Stroud in particular.
Yep. So I'm going to add to that, John, with my next one, Nico Collins. Nico's back at practice this week. From what I heard, Nico might have been able to have played last week, but I'm guessing being cautious because he's been injury prone. But he's back at practice. He's going to play on Sunday. John, he's got to have watched these last couple weeks, both the game he played in against Tampa Bay and the one he watched from the sidelines against Cincinnati, and said to himself, I want in on this party, man. We had a 470-yard passing performance against Tampa Bay, and they had 3 guys get 100 yards in that game, and I wasn't one of them. And then he's sitting and he's watching Noah Brown get a $172. Noah Brown, of all people, getting a $172, and Tank Dell piecing the Bengals defense, and Dalton Schultz is getting things done again with 71 yards receiving. Nico Collins is healthy, and he has had some big games this year, and I think he wants in on this party. So Nico Collins, my pick is for Nico Collins. He is this week's 100-yard receiver because he's too tired. He's very tired of watching all these other guys pile up all these stats.
Noah Brown leads the league in average yards per catch. The Texans are they're the only team in the league that has 4 players, including Schultz, who are in the top 25 in yards. Man. And number 1 is Collins, number 2 is Dell, 3 is Brown, 4 is Schultz. Mm-hmm. Those guys, think about where we thought they were wide receiver-wise to start the season. Now Collins and Brown outside, both big, both block like crazy. Tank Dell moving around from the slot, swapping with Noah Brown, putting Brown in the slot, and then with Dalton Schultz catching and blocking his butt off.
Yeah.
That receiver group, coached by Ben McDaniels, has done a tremendous job.
I still see a lot of people, John, like, what's up with John Mechie? How come John Mechie isn't getting on the field? And my feeling on that is 2 things. One, to your point, you just named off a bunch of guys and add Robert Woods in there too, who's, back healthy again. It's weird to say, but it's hard for Mechie to get on the field right now because these guys are playing so well in front of him. Secondly, when Mechie has gotten on the field, he's actually done some things the last couple of weeks. He's made some catches in some crucial situations. He made a couple catches in that Bengals game, one that got him down in the shadows of the goalpost there at about the 5-yard line. And Mechie blocks his ass off when he's in the game too. He's a really good blocker. So I'm fine with, given how, it's hard to complain about anything with the passing offense. I'm not going to sit here and complain about Mechie when they're putting up 300 yards a game passing offense.
One of the things, when I went back and watched the game a couple of times, and when a guy makes a big play down the field, they usually take him out immediately, let him catch his breath, or if his guy's been blocking somebody, knocked him on the ground, they'll pull him out because they've got other guys ready to go. So really, if you think about the wide receivers, they're 5 deep, and if Xavier Hutchinson got to play, don't tell him what he'd be able to do. He just
it's nice.
Get the playing time. If he's in the game, I'm thinking end around.
Yeah, no kidding, right? He's run a couple this year, and they've looked really, really good. All right, what's your last one for the 6-pack, John?
It's the offensive line continuing to run block the way it did against Cincinnati. I know the Bengals were bad coming in, 27th, I believe, but the Panthers were 31st. Now they ran for 110. So I think if they continue to run block and Devin Singletary can plant that foot and go, pick up the right holes, make some – he's got some moves. And plus the fact, he's small, but, man, 30 carries, he didn't flinch. So the run blocking, I think, is still paramount to what they want to accomplish on offense.
They were good pass blocking, too, the offensive line. They only allowed 1 sack on 41 dropbacks against the Bengals last week. So they've been solid all year protecting CJ in the passing game, but they were really solid last week. So, yeah, hopefully more of that on Sunday. All right, my last one, John. This is similar to coming out of the bye week against Carolina. I think one of my 6-pack items. I think my last 6-pack item was, how do the Texans handle having read their own press clippings for 2 weeks about how amazing they've been? And they obviously, I hesitate to say they didn't handle it well because I don't think that was the reason they lost to Carolina. They just executed poorly on offense, and I thought Bobby Slowick called just a horrendous game that game with all the runs on first and second down, very predictable. I didn't think effort was a huge issue. They made some mistakes in that game. So I think they, as far as like they reading their own press clippings, they lost that game. I don't know that was the reason, but I think similarly now it's, similar dynamic. They've won 2 in a row. CJ is the toast of the league. Like literally he is the toast of the league right now. Their offense is being talked about like one of the most prolific high-flying offenses in the NFL. God, when has that happened in Houston? That's been a decade since we've been talking about the Texans offensively like this. And just so I will be curious to see, do they come out fast, especially at home? Do they come out fast in this game? What does this look like? What's the start of this game look like? Do they let Arizona hang around in this game? I know the spread's only 4.5, 5, so it's not a big spread, but the Texans are clearly the more talented football team. I think they're the better coached football team. They're by far the more explosive football team and the more complete football team in all 3 phases of the game. This is a game that, in my opinion, this is a game they should win by 2 scores. Absolutely. Get on them early. So how do the Texans come out in this game, having looked so good the last couple of games? Do they come out a little sluggish, or do they come out ready to put their foot on the throat? Because I think if they come out fast, I don't think they're going to let Arizona hang around very long in this game on Sunday.
If they do come out sluggish, Sean, I think what we're going to see is the crowd will have an effect on this game, exhorting them if that happens. But I would think the adrenaline will be flowing because there should be a good crowd.
Yeah.
And I don't think for a minute every seat's going to be filled because they never are. But if they win this game, that Jacksonville game ought to be the actual most fans they've had in the stands. But I think the crowd, just like in the last game when they had the great comeback against Tampa, they were proud, loud and proud, and they could have an effect on the game.
What's your prediction?
I'm taking the Texans to win 27-23.
Oh, okay. Wow. So you think this thing's going to hang right around the spread? You see a close game on Sunday.
I hope I'm wrong, but they had that big game in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
They got a big one coming up against Jacksonville. So we'll see how they handle the success and if they're looking ahead.
Well, to be clear, I hope you're right. Like, I'll take a 27-23 win. If I were betting on the game, which I did, I got it at -4. I don't know that I'd root for your final score. A push is better than a loss, I would say. But if I had -4.5, I'll tell you right now, I would hate it if they finished 27-23 for sure. But I'll take a win. I'll take a dub. I'm going to go 31-20 in this game. I think the Texans win by 2 scores. I think they win by double digits. And I don't think they let Arizona really put a scare into them on Sunday. So John and I both have the Texans winning this game. I've got them winning and covering fairly handily in this game. All right, John, you ready to do a few for real or fugazis before we get out of here?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. For real or fugazi. We do this segment every Thursday. I've got several sentences in front of me. I will read them to the great John McClain as if they are facts. If he agrees that they are fact or he thinks the opinion is valid, he will say for real. If he thinks the opposite of that these are either false or it's a bad take, or he disagrees with it, he says
fugazi.
Fugazi, that's Italian for counterfeit or fake. All right, John, let's do this. CJ Stroud, as of right now, is the MVP of the National Football League.
As of right now, for real.
As of right now. So the season ended today, he would get your MVP vote.
He would, but I don't think he's going to have a prayer because no rookies won MVP since 57. They ain't nobody's won it from let's see. Going back to 2012, every MVP's come from a division champion. The last one it didn't was Adrian Peterson, who's also the last non-quarterback to win it. But I don't think he'll win it. But I think now that the voters turn in 5 people, he'll be in the top 5, and if he can keep it up, and the team can continue to win.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that. I think it's them winning in the division, because when we go, well, the rookies just haven't won it since Jim Brown, my first question would be, okay, tell me what rookie was supposed to have won the MVP that everybody's up in arms about through the years. Like which rookie got screwed in an MVP voting? CJ's doing things that guys haven't done before. You know what I mean? John, he's doing it in a year where quarterback play is down around the NFL. Like CBSSports.com does their power rankings of quarterbacks each week, based on the body of work for the entire season. CJ's number 1 on that right now. Number 2 is Jalen Hurts, who's been good this year. Mahomes is up there. But by the time in Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen's 5th. And I looked at him like, Josh Allen's not had a good year. They're 5-5. He leads the league in interceptions. But then you start to look at who's sixth and who's seventh and who's eighth. Like you do the back of the top 10, and it's Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy. When Kirk Cousins was healthy, he's hanging around in that area. It's Joe Burrow's in that spot. CJ outplayed Joe Burrow last week. Quarterback play as a whole is not great around the NFL this year. I think there's a chance you could get a non-quarterback winning MVP if Christian McCaffrey keeps putting up numbers.
I think that the quarterbacks are going to step up. They're elite. It's that time of year when they get serious about the playoffs, crunch time. I think Nick Caserio has a better chance of winning Executive of the Year and D'Amico Coach of the Year than Stroud does as MVP.
I would agree with that for sure. Yeah. I mean, they're both – D'Amico's number 2 on the odds board right now with Dan Campbell. I would agree with that. And Nick's had a nice season as well, obviously. John, for real or fugazi, we know Deshaun Watson is out for the season, and they have pushed so much money into future years. John, his cap hit the next 3 seasons is $64 million in each season. And there's still $9 million sitting in a dummy year after the contract's over that they're going to get hit with. John, for real or fugazi, the Deshaun Watson trade right now is the worst trade in NFL history.
Fugazi, the worst trade in NFL history was the Cowboys and the Vikings that led to three Super Bowls and all these. Jimmy Johnson could not say when the trade was made that these veteran players he took in an 8-part package, that if he cut them, he got picks for them. I can't remember why that was. Jimmy talked about that on a Football Live, and he turned it into players like Emmitt Smith and a lot of stars that helped him win those Super Bowls. That'll always be the worst trade in NFL history. I think this is the worst contract in NFL history. That's being proved every year, and it's going to cause them big problems. And but the way it's turned out, depending on the first player they got for him, Kenyon Green, they didn't do anything with that.
Yeah.
And Dameon Pierce, that looked great. He looked great last year, and they still have a 1 and a 4. But I think we'll have to see what the Texans do, but it's turning out to be really bad for the
Browns. I view the contract as part of the trade. I mean, if there's no trade, there's no contract. And for the Browns to have pulled off that trade, they had to give Deshaun that deal. That's the only way he was going there was with a fully guaranteed deal. So I guess some of it's in how you view it. I view the contract as being part of the trade. All right, next one, John. There is noise out there that the Texans could have their Week 14 game against the Jets flexed onto Monday Night Football. The Giants and the Packers are scheduled to face each other at MetLife Stadium that Monday night. It would be a very easy thing for the league to do to flip the Texans to Monday because it's the same stadium. Nobody's got to change travel plans, and you get C.J. Stroud on a national stage, the biggest story in the NFL right now. For real or fugazi, Texans-Jets is going to get flexed to Monday Night Football in Week 14.
Fugazi. I think if they did it, it would have to be with Aaron Rodgers back. I don't think Rodgers is coming back. And I haven't looked at the other games that could be. And I feel bad for fans because I know some fans who've made arrangements to go up there. Now they got to worry about having to change their hotel and change their plane trip home. But it would certainly be great exposure for the Texans if the league does do it. But because the Jets are so bad and Zach Wilson is so pathetic, I can't imagine they want to put him on TV any more than he's already been.
Well, John, but the flip side is, and okay, unless there's another game that they could flip to it. I mean, some of the story here is the convenience of it being MetLife Stadium, that you can just slide him right in there. Even without Aaron Rodgers, like I would think, CJ. First of all, Zach Wilson's Tommy DeVito makes Zach Wilson looks like Johnny Unitas, and getting CJ Stroud onto Monday Night Football isn't such a bad thing,
No, not at all. And they're gonna flex it. I just don't think it'll be them if the Jets don't have Aaron Rodgers back.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Let's see here, John. I've got 2 more for you here. Bill Belichick, it seems like when, not if, they're going to fire him or part ways with Bill Belichick at the end of the year in New England. For real or fugazi, Bill Belichick will be coaching somewhere in 2024.
I believe he will. There's somebody quoted sources saying it's going to be the Chargers. I've seen another one. He's going to go to the Raiders, and then Brady will be one of his bosses. And then there's talk about Mike Florio's been floating it out there for Washington. Chicago's trying to get a new stadium. Would that get people fired up? I don't know that I'd be real fired up if I had Belichick coming in there, because he's got a terrible record without Brady. And I'm not saying he's not the greatest coach ever, but he's 72. He's got to make over an organization to make sure they know he is in charge of absolutely everything. And you can't do that overnight. It takes a couple of 3 years. And then you got to hit a home run with a 6th round draft choice, because he's got to have his quarterback. And the person that reported about the Chargers, Gary Myers, said he likes the West Coast and he likes the idea of coaching a team with a lot of talent and a quarterback like Justin Herbert. But we'll see. It's certainly going to be interesting. And he spent his whole career either in the Midwest, Northeast Ohio, and then in New York and New England. So if he goes west, it'll certainly be culture change for him.
No doubt. Last one, John. Astros related. The MVP voting is going to get announced today. It looks like Shohei Ohtani, I'm guessing, is a lock to win the American League MVP. But Kyle Tucker is going to finish pretty high up the board. I would guess he's going to finish 3rd or 4th in the MVP voting. John, for real or fugazi, Kyle Tucker gives the Astros their best chance at an MVP for the AL in 2024.
Fugazi. I think that Yordan Alvarez, if he could actually play more games, even a few more, if he could stay healthy, I think he would be number one. Tucker, of course, he's going to get a monster contract. To be shocked if he signs back here. There's talk about somebody put Bregman could get $300 million from somebody. I don't think so.
See you later.
And so they've got big decisions to make. Dana Brown and Jim Crane, when it comes to the finances, Dana Brown got a lot. He was there in Atlanta when they got a lot of guys signed to extensions, and they paid them what was good money at the time. Now they look like pretty good deals, kind of like they did here with Altuve, Bregman, and Alvarez. But I think it would be Alvarez first and Tucker second.
Me too. Yordan's numbers are insane, even for just 112 games last year. 97 RBIs in 112 games. He is freaking. And that, John, he went a month without hitting. He missed like 38 games or 48 games. And remember, he came back from one of the injuries. He went like a month without hitting a home run, like 18 games, 19 games without hitting a home run. He still wound up with 30 home runs and 97 RBIs.
Tucker and Bregman are Iron Men. If he could, he doesn't have to play 160. But if he could just play 145 or 150, he might hit 50 home runs, drive in 150 runs.
I agree. All right, John, what do you got going on the website, sportsradio610.com?
I'm working on a column with Warren Moon talking about Stroud, who he's been watching since he was a sophomore at Ohio State. And Stroud telling me when he was little, his dad made him watch games of the Oilers because he said Warren Moon throws the best ball, and I want you to watch how he does it and emulate him.
Good stuff. Sportsradio610.com. That's where you can get all of John's stuff. John, appreciate it as always. Enjoy the game Sunday. I will talk to you out just outside Bud Light Plaza for Texans Countdown at 11:15 a.m.
I look forward to it, Sean. Thank you very much.
All right, good stuff. That's John McClain and James Jackson, of course, our producer, getting the podcast out to all of you. Click that subscribe button. You'll get it automatically, and you don't have to worry about anything, and you don't have to do anything. You just hit subscribe. You're going to get Utopia automatically. HOUmailbag@gmail.com is our email address to send us a mailbag question. We hit the mailbag every Tuesday on the show. So HOUmailbag@gmail.com. For James Jackson and John McClain, I'm Sean Pendergast. We are out of time. Enjoy the game on Sunday, everybody, at NRG Stadium. Cardinals and the Texans. We'll be with you Sunday night with the follow-up, the recap of the game on our next episode. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.